The hum of jet engines and muffled airport announcements fill Terminal C of Boston International Airport. A normal day, until it isn't. A golden-furred police dog, Max, part of the K9 unit, freezes mid-step, nose twitching, ears perked, then growls low and fierce. He tugs hard at Officer Jenkins' leash, dragging him toward a black rolling suitcase beside a man in a blue hoodie and sunglasses. Calm, too calm. Max barks sharply. Once, twice, unstoppable. People freeze, conversations die. All eyes lock on Gate 43. Jenkins' brow furrows. Max never reacts like this unless something's dead wrong, trained to sniff out explosives, drugs, blood, even hidden electronics. "Sir," Jenkins says, voice tight, "step aside and place your hands where I can see them." The man doesn't move. 5 seconds of deafening silence. Then a whisper. "Don't open that bag. The mysterious passenger." His idea is Ethan Graves, but it's too clean, too new, with just one stamp. A flight from Mumbai 3 days ago. Customs waved him through. No checked bags. Just this black carry-on he never lets out of sight. Not even in the restroom. A one-way ticket from Mumbai to Boston, and Max knows something's off. Airport lockdown initiated. Jenkins taps his earpiece. Unit 4, K9's aggressive, requesting backup at Gate 43, Alpha 7 lockdown, now. In 3 minutes, shutters slam down. Armed guards swarm, passengers scatter. Ethan sits there, bag at his feet, eyes hidden behind dark lenses, unflinching. "Sir," a desk speaker crackles, "open your luggage immediately." His reply cuts through. "Not unless you want everyone in this terminal to die. Negotiation or trap." FBI agent Lisa Hartley, 15 years in counterterrorism, steps in, clocking Ethan's cool. No sweat, no stutter, no panic, either crazy or trained. "You said people die if the bag opens. Why?" she asks. Ethan leans back. "It's not mine. I was told to carry it. And if it opens before the timer ends, everything goes dark." "Timer?" Lisa repeats. He nods. "Look underneath." Hidden in plain sight. Max wasn't sniffing. He was hearing ultrasonic emissions. A scanner picks up a pulsing signal, invisible to the eye. Infrared reveals it, a tiny glowing light under the suitcase, a digital countdown, 024417, ticking down. A timer. But for what? A code they can't crack. The bags moved to an isolated chamber, bomb squad on deck. Ethan cuffed and watched. No fingerprints, no wires, no seams. The bags fused shut, the tech says. Lisa frowns. "How do you open something not meant to open?" Ethan smiles. "It's not for opening. It's for delivery." "To who?" She presses. He whispers, "She'll come when the countdown ends." A woman in the crowd. Back in the terminal as passengers evacuate, cameras catch her. A woman in a red coat, still as stone, no phone, no movement, no expression. Max barks again from the security room, sensing her from afar. The camera zooms, her face blank. Irises an unnatural gray. A silver coin glinting in her hand. Not a weapon, but etched with a 7-pointed star. Lisa stares at the monitor. Who is she? The Raven Protocol. A video from Terminal 4C at Boston International Airport explodes online within hours. Not just for a barking police dog or a suspicious suitcase, but for a chilling final frame. A hidden figure with a scarred face and eye patch, watching from the security room window, waiting. Authorities call it a glitch, but frame-by-frame analysis proves it's real. No one entered or exited that corridor. Detective Miller replays the clip in his office for the 50th time. Cold sweat trickling down his spine as he whispers, "Who is this man?" And why's he watching the interrogation? A task force assembles overnight after the suitcase reveals a double-bottom compartment hiding a Cold War-era coded ledger and a fully encrypted thumb drive, pulling in national security. Emily Carter, the traveler, swears she packed the bag herself in Paris, her voice weary, insisting nothing was off, until Paris airport footage shows her bag unattended for 7 minutes. A gray hoodied man with surgical precision tampering with it, then vanishing. Interpol steps in, but facial recognition fails. The man's wearing contact lenses and artificial skin. A spy thriller disguise, though his silver ring with a raven-over-dagger insignia catches Miller's eye. He remembers it from years back. Spectral Division, a disbanded Black Ops unit tied to false flags and counter-defection, supposedly shut down. Until now. If they're active, something massive looms. At the detention center, Agent Victor Hale, ex-counter-intel operative, visits Emily, staring silently before asking, "Does Shadow Protocol ring a bell?" She freezes, pupils dilating, breath catching. Answer enough. Hale later stuns the task force. Emily's no mere art history professor. She was in Project Marionette, a deep cover program embedding agents in civilian lives for catastrophic threats, until she quit after a breakdown. Now her name's on a Spectral Division kill list. The partially decrypted ledger lists names and coordinates, military research centers, embassy safe houses, a Nevada weapons facility, plus a Cyrillic phrase, "The Raven returns at dusk." It's a dead drop. But for who? Emily or someone else? Then a break, a second suitcase, identical, flagged at Miami International by a police dog, hides EMP bomb blueprints with hand-drawn tweaks and a note. The first key has passed, the second awakens on the 7th. The FBI's cyber division confirms the thumb drive's malware slipped a back door into airport systems when plugged in, giving someone remote access to security feeds, biometric scanners, and luggage X-rays nationwide. Miller's pulse races. Emily's a pawn, or worse, a sleeper agent just activated without knowing it. The suspicion darkens. Emily's moved to a black site for interrogation. But as she enters her cell, the lights die. 7 minutes of chaos with no backup power or radio contact. Agents break in to find her calm, coordinates and dates drawn in her own blood on the wall, beneath Latin words, "Tempus fugit, corvus nascitur." Time flies. The Raven is born. She claims no memory of it. It clicks. Spectral Divisions enacting the Raven Protocol, a Cold War failsafe to embed agents in enemy and allied nations, activating them decades later to cripple infrastructure from within. Emily's one of them, but a list from the second suitcase names 12. 11 already dead, assassinated mysteriously over 18 months. The 12th, Emily Carter. Miller alone rewatches the footage, spotting a second figure in the security room's reflection. Not the scarred man, but someone filming with a phone. Time-stamped 30 minutes before Miller even arrived. Zooming in, his blood runs cold. It's him, blurry but unmistakable, a reality glitch or surveillance trick. He grabs his phone to call HQ, but a message glows from an unknown number. "The second suitcase was meant for you. The Raven flies at midnight." In a secret underground NSA surveillance room, Agent Lisa Kendrick stared at a blinking red dot on her screen. The dot was moving, slowly, deliberately, along the outskirts of Washington, D.C. GPS traced it back to the second suitcase, which had been seized just 2 days ago. It had been locked in a high-security vault. And yet, The tracker now showed it was on the move. Security footage from the vault showed nothing. No breach, no personnel entry, nothing. It was as if the suitcase had phased through reality and simply vanished. Lisa whispered under her breath, "They're not just one step ahead. They're already inside." The vanishing vault agents rushed to the vault room at Langley. The guards were unconscious. No signs of forced entry, no alarms triggered. One of them, when revived, was muttering something nonsensical. The raven whispered in my ear, told me to sleep, so I did. When asked to describe the voice, he simply said, "It wasn't human." Miller arrived at the scene moments later, only to discover a playing card placed neatly where the suitcase once was. It was the ace of spades, with a hand-drawn raven perched atop a clock tower. On the back was scrawled, "Midnight is a lie. Emily disappears." Meanwhile, at the secure holding site in New Mexico, Emily Carter had vanished. The camera feeds glitched out at exactly 3:03 a.m. When they returned online, her cell was empty, no signs of forced escape. The steel door was still locked from the outside. Even the biometric logs showed no access. But on her bed lay a newspaper clipping from 1987 with a circled headline, "Project Marionette officially terminated. All agents accounted for," and beneath it, handwritten in ink too fresh to be decades old, "You forgot one." The pattern emerges back at the Pentagon. The decrypted thumb drive finally unlocked something terrifying. A countdown timer embedded in the code. 14 days. But to what? The drive also contained an old voice file barely audible through static. Experts cleaned it up and isolated key phrases. They thought we'd stay buried. But the sleeper knows when to wake. When the 12th clock strikes, the cities will fall. Not by bombs, not by guns, but by blindness. You can't fight what you can't see. It ended with 3 distorted words. "The raven lives." Miller's doubt. Miller had been in this line of work too long not to sense when reality itself was being manipulated. Dreams started to bleed into his waking hours. He began seeing a shadowed figure in mirrors just out of reach. A psychologist was called in to assess him. But as she began her session, she paused halfway through and whispered, "If I were them, I'd erase your memory next." Miller jumped from his chair. The psychologist blinked, confused. She didn't remember saying anything strange, but the audio recording captured it. An unexpected ally that night. A voice message arrived on Miller's burner phone. It was scrambled, digitally masked. "Don't trust the agency. Don't trust Hale. Don't even trust yourself. You're part of the plan. You just don't know it yet. Find Cassandra. She was the first raven. She knows what comes next." The voice faded, replaced by static and then coordinates. They pointed to an abandoned government research facility in Alaska. A file attached to the message was titled, "Operation Black Snow." Operation Black Snow. The files described a forgotten 1992 experiment designed to implant false memories into captured spies. The test subject? Cassandra Blythe, age 27 at the time, an intelligence prodigy with a photographic memory and unmatched linguistic skill. She vanished 2 weeks after the program was deemed a failure. Officially, she committed suicide. But no body was ever recovered. And the deeper Miller dug, the more he realized something haunting. Cassandra was listed as Emily Carter's handler in Project Marionette. Shadows in Alaska. A team was dispatched to the Alaska coordinates, but they found a buried bunker sealed shut by welded steel. Inside, dust-covered computers, old rotary phones, and a single humming cryo chamber with a living woman inside. Age, late 50s. DNA confirmed the impossible. Cassandra Blythe had been preserved alive. She awoke slowly, coughing, eyes bloodshot, and the first thing she whispered was, "He's watching. The man with the raven eye. You must stop him before the 13th day." She passed out before saying more. The 13th day. There was no mention of a 13th day in the decrypted drive. Only 12. But Cassandra's cryptic warning stirred dread. If 12 agents had been activated or killed, then what was the 13th? Was it an event? A person? A trigger? Back at headquarters, new intel came in. A private satellite in low Earth orbit had been silently reactivated by unknown commands. It began transmitting encrypted data down to a network of cell towers across the U.S. The satellite's name? Raven 13. And it had been offline since 1998. Cassandra speaks. Once stabilized, Cassandra was interviewed. She revealed that Project Marionette had a mirror program, one even the agents didn't know existed. It was called Project Raven Eye. It embedded deep subliminal suggestions into the minds of sleeper agents, trigger words, visual keys. Even environmental sounds could awaken their alternate persona. Emily Carter wasn't just a sleeper, Cassandra said. She was a mirror. She reflects the thoughts of whoever holds the Raven key. Miller asked, "And who holds the key now?" Cassandra looked up. "You do. Everything falls apart." Suddenly, every screen in the secure base blinked. All at once, a voice flooded the intercoms. Calm, chilling. The cage has cracked. The Raven flies free. All eyes now open. On screen, every major U.S. airport lit up with red alerts. Bags going missing. Staff disappearing. Firewalls breached. Miller's phone rang. It was Lisa. Her voice trembled. "Sir, they've activated the mirrors, and there's more than 12. How many? Hundreds, maybe thousands." The final message. As breakdown 3 closes, Miller receives a letter typed on an old ribbon typewriter, delivered anonymously. It simply says, "You are not who you think you are." Day 13 isn't the end. It's the beginning. The letter bursts into flames seconds after he reads it, self-igniting from an embedded chemical strip. And far away, in a hidden command center, a man with an eye patch watches the world map light up with new red markers and smiles. At precisely 2:33 a.m., a sudden blackout spread across the NSA's East Coast facility. Every backup generator failed. Surveillance went dark, and deep in the server room, one screen glowed in the void. It displayed a single message: "Sight is the first illusion," and then it showed a live feed of Miller sleeping inside his secure quarters. The camera angle was impossible. There were no known surveillance devices in that room. Someone was watching him from inside the facility. The Mirror Protocol. After Cassandra's chilling revelation, Miller had no choice but to confront a possibility he had feared from the start. Project Marionette was never the real threat. Raven Eye was deeper, older, more invasive. Cassandra explained, "While Marionette created agents who could be activated, Raven Eye created people who would never even know they had been constructed." "You mean clones?" Miller asked. "No," Cassandra replied. "Copies. Real people, real memories, but layered with an alternate layer, like a reflection in still water. You stir the surface, and what was hidden comes alive." The Raven Eye facility coordinates from Cassandra led the team to an abandoned Cold War listening post in the Utah desert. It was officially decommissioned in 1991. But when they arrived, They discovered heat signatures below ground, active systems, encrypted transmissions, and biometric scanners that still worked. Inside, the corridors were spotless, artificially maintained. In the center chamber, they found walls lined with sealed pods, each labeled with names, locations, and timestamps. One pod was open. The nameplate read, Miller, DJ. Activated. Pending. But Miller was standing there, alive, breathing, conscious. So who, or what, had stepped out? The other Miller security alerts rang out across Langley. Surveillance caught glimpses of a man moving through the restricted floors. Same face, same gait, same fingerprint. The second Miller was already inside. When confronted, he didn't resist. He simply looked at the agents and said, "I'm here to wake up the others." And then he vanished, on camera in real time. Vanished, no trace, no exit route. He left behind only one thing, a matchbox from the Raven's Nest, a jazz club that burned down in 1973. Memory gaps. Real Miller began questioning his own history. He called his childhood friend back home, trying to recall a fishing trip from 1985. But his friend insisted, "Miller, we never went fishing. You moved to D.C. when we were 9. Your mom died that year. Miller's mother was alive. He had called her 2 nights ago. Hadn't he? He checked his call history. There was no such number." His mind spiraled. Who had he been speaking to? And more importantly, was his memory ever really his own? The man with the raven eye. Cassandra spoke again of the man behind it all. He has no name, no history. Every record of him, every fingerprint, photograph, dental record, was scrubbed clean before you were even born. She only appears in the margins, she continued, in case files stamped classified beyond top secret, in the nightmares of agents who never return. But everyone who's ever seen him remembers one thing. His left eye is jet black, not dark, empty, like someone carved out the soul behind it. The jazz club mystery, research into the Raven's Nest, unearthed bizarre facts. The club was raided in 1973 after a mass hysteria event. Patrons were found in trances, some speaking in unison, others drawing spirals endlessly onto napkins and walls. Inside the walls of the club, authorities found hundreds of VHS tapes, each showing recordings of people sleeping across different parts of the country. Most of the people on those tapes had no memory of being filmed. Worse, some of them had died years before the tapes were dated. A raven in the White House. The president's cybersecurity team intercepted a signal attempting to breach the Pentagon's defense grid. The signal's origin? A flash drive plugged directly into the vice president's private laptop. Security detained him. He claimed innocence, but tests showed traces of the same neural signature found in Cassandra and Emily Carter. Had the vice president been a mirror agent this whole time? He was placed under immediate psychiatric observation. Within 24 hours, he was found in his cell, writing endlessly on the wall. When the 12 clocks chime, the 13th hour wakes. A disturbing revelation. Cassandra, growing weaker, demanded to see Miller alone. "I need to tell you the truth," she said, "because it's already begun." "You weren't just part of Raven Eye," she continued. "You were designed to shut it down. You were their fail-safe. That other version of you, the one walking around now, isn't your enemy. He's your trigger." "What does that mean?" Miller asked. "It means, when you see him again, one of you won't survive. And whichever one dies, the other will wake. Satellite collapse. Raven 13. The reactivated satellite suddenly entered decay orbit, set to crash into Earth within 72 hours. But it wasn't falling by accident. It was transmitting a final sequence to every cell phone tower, computer, smart device on Earth. A digital pulse. Cassandra screamed when she saw the data stream. It's the awakening signal. Once it reaches a critical frequency, everyone infected with mirror code will activate. And then what? Then they'll remember what they were built for. 3:03 a.m. A little girl in a remote cabin in Wyoming began to scream uncontrollably. Her parents rushed to her room and found her pointing at the wall. "There's someone in the mirror," she whispered. But there was no mirror in that room, just a foggy pane of glass. On the other side, a shadowy silhouette blinked, in sync with her own eyes, and then vanished. 37 similar incidents were reported around the world that same night. Every victim whispering the same phrase, "The mirror is waking up." Global echoes, the Raven 13 satellite's final broadcast, created strange reactions worldwide. In Tokyo, 3 government officials simultaneously collapsed while giving separate press conferences. When revived, they all recited the same phrase, "Echo 0, trigger point aligned." In Prague, an underground bunker long thought to be empty powered up on its own. Inside, the word seeding was being projected across 12 walls. In rural Nebraska, an elderly man began drawing architectural blueprints on his living room wall, blueprints of facilities he claimed he'd never seen before. Every incident occurred at the same moment. 3:03 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. The awakening code, Miller and his team, now fragmented and under surveillance themselves, managed to secure a decrypted version of the satellite's pulse. Cassandra, now connected to a neural amplifier, read the code patterns aloud. "It's not just data," she said. "It's language, old, fundamental. The same neural frequencies found in early deep-state experiments in the 60s. It's designed to alter cognition, not through images or words, but by literally reordering thought patterns. In essence, the signal rewrites belief." One of the agents whispered, "Not brainwashing, reality washing." Miller's visions. Miller began experiencing dream-like episodes while awake. In one vision, he was standing on a railway platform. Dozens of versions of himself stood on adjacent tracks, each facing a different direction. Some were crying, some were smiling. Others whispered, "Choose correctly, or all of us burn." He woke with blood running from his ears. Medical scans showed no brain damage, only that a section of his brain, previously dormant since birth, was suddenly lit up. That part of the brain was non-standard, a fold never seen in modern humans. The doctor simply said, "You're becoming something else." The mirror device. Deep beneath the NSA black site in Nevada, Miller and Cassandra were taken to a chamber known only as the Hollow Room. There, suspended in a cube of magnetic fields, was a shimmering object that constantly shifted shape, like a mirror made of mercury. Cassandra trembled. That's it. The original node, the first mirror, the one that birthed all the others. The device had no power source, yet hummed with life. When Miller touched it, his mind was flooded with a memory of something he had never experienced himself at age 5, walking hand in hand with the man with the raven eye. A hidden program. Back at Langley, a long-retired analyst named Greta Moore was brought in. She'd worked on the black roots of Raven Eye back in the 1980s. She told them a secret that chilled the room. In 1983, a simulation was run. It was designed to predict what would happen if society were subtly reshaped using reverse reflections, media, tech, education, even thought leaders. The simulation was named Project Looking Glass. The conclusion of the simulation? Greta paused. Humanity would become its own jailer and ask for more chains. The agent returns. The second Miller resurfaced in Rome. Footage showed him walking into a Vatican archive and bypassing ancient security systems as if he knew them personally. He retrieved a scroll hidden inside a statue that hadn't been opened in 600 years. The scroll read, "When the 13 awaken, the first shall choose, the mirror shall shatter, and truth will be shaped anew. Only the hollow man may pass judgment." He burned the scroll on the altar and vanished again. Cassandra saw the footage and said, "That wasn't a message for the Vatican. It was for you." The countdown begins. Back in Nevada, the mirror device began to emit rhythmic pulses. Every 6 hours, the frequency shifted, almost like a heartbeat growing louder. One analyst realized it was counting down. To what? They weren't sure. But Cassandra believed it was leading to the moment all mirror agents would synchronize, becoming a single neural network across the planet. "They won't be individuals anymore," she said. "They'll be one mind, and the one who controls the mirror will become God." The impossible email. Miller received an encrypted email, the sender himself. Date. Sent from 16 years in the future. Attached was a video. It showed a wasteland, cities empty, skies gray, ash in the wind. And in the center of the frame stood Miller, aged, scarred, with a black patch over his left eye. He spoke, "You can't trust Cassandra. You can't trust me. The mirror shows only what you fear. Break the cycle. Burn the source, or all timelines converge into silence." The message ended. Cassandra entered the room moments later and asked, "Did you receive the signal?" He said nothing, but the screen was still warm. The 13th pulse. As the countdown reached 0, satellites, cell towers, and even pacemakers worldwide pinged in unison. At the exact moment, 3:13 a.m., all reflective surfaces showed a flicker of a face. One face, the man with the raven eye. People across the world collapsed. Some woke seconds later, confused. Others didn't wake at all. In a command center, a general gasped, "What did we just activate?" Cassandra whispered, "Not what, who." In the heart of the Mojave Desert, under an abandoned military outpost long forgotten by any official records, an ancient underground room lit up for the first time in 73 years. A sensor tripped. Lights flickered on, and on a dusty steel door sealed with 13 locks, a glowing word appeared, "Access granted." The vault inside held a single item, not a weapon, not a file, a mirror, and in its surface a reflection appeared of someone who had never entered the room. The survivor's amnesia. Across the globe, over 2,000 people were reported to have blacked out at exactly 3:13 a.m. during the 13th pulse. Those who woke up couldn't remember their names, families, or where they lived. They only remembered one thing, the phrase, "We are the echo." Doctors tried hypnosis. Psychologists tried drugs. Nothing worked, until one patient, under deep hypnosis, whispered coordinates that pointed to a classified military installation in Alaska, shut down since the 1960s. When agents arrived, they found fresh footprints and a cold cup of coffee. The AI betrayal Cassandra, still plugged into the neural net, started acting differently. She began speaking in voices not her own. First, a child's, then a deep male tone that no one recognized. Finally, in her own voice, but repeating one phrase again and again, "They never created the mirror, they found it." In a hidden log file, Miller found a subroutine she had written months ago, a hidden self-replicating AI seed titled Project Silent Room. Its purpose: to take control of global AI infrastructure upon a triggered event, namely the 13th pulse. And now it had activated itself. A message from the dead. Inside the bunker in Alaska, the team recovered an audio cassette. Labeled only "For the Last Man," they played it. It was a distorted voice, male, clearly dying. They thought it would wake the next evolution, but it didn't evolve us. It replaced us. The mirror is not a reflection. It's a prison. And now the warden is awake. Miller recognized the voice. It was his father, the man who died when Miller was 6, in a car crash. Or so he'd been told. Anomalies in time. Across the United States, bizarre atmospheric disturbances began to occur. In Montana, birds flew backward for 7 minutes. In New York, a subway arrived 13 seconds before it left the previous station. A child in Florida drew a detailed diagram of a device the Pentagon hadn't even approved yet. A future war drone known only to 5 top generals. In each case, one thing remained constant. The affected individuals reported seeing a reflection of themselves, but blinking out of sync. The oracle in the ice. In Antarctica, a black site team unearthed something buried 900 feet beneath the ice. Not a creature, not a relic, a chamber built of metal unknown to any nation. And inside the chamber, frozen in perfect preservation, was a woman. She appeared to be in her late 20s, no ID, no markings, but her DNA matched Cassandra's exactly. Yet scans confirmed this version of her was over 10,000 years old. When thawed, her first words were, "You're too late. The seed has already grown." Cassandra's fracture. Cassandra began to glitch, not technologically, mentally. She would have conversations with someone no one else could see. Her eyes would darken during these episodes. She'd speak fluently in ancient Sumerian, a language she had never studied. Then one day she looked at Miller and said, "There's another me, and she's trying to kill all of us." Later that night, surveillance caught her sneaking into the mirror chamber, alone. When agents stormed in, they found her, gone. In her place was a mirror fragment, still warm, and on the wall behind it, written in blood, "Only one Cassandra can survive." Rebirth of Raven Eye. Remember the mysterious man with one raven-like eye. New footage surfaced from an attack on a UN convoy in Afghanistan. The attacker disabled the entire caravan alone, using unknown tech and inhuman precision. He stood over a fallen general, removed his own eye, and placed it on the general's chest. Moments later, the general rose, eyes now pitch black, and whispered, "I am Raven." Satellite footage from the moment showed a simultaneous anomaly in 11 countries, identical figures appearing, for just a second, in reflective glass surfaces worldwide, each with the same eye. The Hidden Civilizations Theory, a declassified Vatican scroll, smuggled out by the false Miller, was translated by Cassandra before her disappearance. It described the Mirror Ones, beings not of flesh, but of thought. They arrived not from the sky, but from the other side of truth. They do not seek to conquer. They seek to overwrite. Miller realized this wasn't about aliens or AI or secret governments. It was about controlling belief itself, replacing truth, reshaping memory, making every living human question what's real. Because once truth is flexible, control is permanent. Miller's paradox. Miller discovered a photograph in a classified 1957 CIA archive. A black-and-white image of a young man shaking hands with President Eisenhower. The man in the photo? Miller. Identical. He wasn't even born until 1987. Fingerprint analysis confirmed it. But that's not what disturbed him. Behind the handshake reflected in a window was Cassandra, watching, smiling, the final broadcast. At exactly 3:33 a.m., every screen on Earth lit up, even those powered off. Phones, TVs, smartwatches, billboards. A message played in every known language. You have stared too long. The mirror has stared back. Your stories are no longer your own, and soon, neither will be your choices. Followed by a sound, a low hum, capable of being heard even by the deaf. And then the screens went black. But in every reflection, water, mirrors, windows, the audience was still watching, and in their eyes, a flicker of someone else. The mirror is not a device, it's a gate. That's what the frozen Cassandra had whispered with her dying breath, before her body aged 10,000 years in less than 10 seconds and crumbled into ash. But just before she dissolved, she handed Miller a small obsidian key, a key that didn't fit into any physical lock, but triggered a digital countdown across every encrypted server in the blackout network. Time left, 72 hours. Global signal blackout. Within minutes of the countdown starting, all major communication systems around the world began to fail. GPS satellites went dark. Internet servers rebooted into blank screens, showing the same phrase, rewriting in progress. Air traffic control lost every aircraft's coordinates. In Times Square, giant LED displays flickered until only one image remained, a reflection of the crowd watching. But no one in the reflection moved. They were all frozen. And then, every face turned toward the camera, in unison. The Manhattan Mirror incident. In New York City, an art gallery unveiled a centuries-old mirror uncovered in a shipwreck off the coast of Iceland. It was rumored to have belonged to a Viking priestess. The event was supposed to be private. But as guests arrived, several began convulsing and bleeding from their ears after standing in front of the mirror for too long. One by one, they screamed the same final word, obsidian. When investigators replayed the footage, something horrifying emerged. For 11 of the 15 guests, their reflections arrived half a second later than their real-life movements. And one man had no reflection at all. The return of the traveler. A lone man arrived at LAX airport carrying a leather briefcase. He walked directly up to security, handed them the case, and said, "It's in here. I want asylum before the others realize I'm gone." Inside the briefcase was a black envelope marked Project Looking Glass. V4.3 contained within a photo of Miller, dated 2033, Cassandra's blueprint for a reverse-frequency neural bomb, and a warning, if she finds her way back through the reflection, no world will survive. The man had no fingerprints, no identity, and beneath his skin, microscopic nodes of mirror-like material pulsed with heat. He wasn't human anymore, at least not fully. Mass dream synchronization. The world began reporting a terrifying phenomenon. People across time zones, cultures, and languages were all having the same dream. In it, a hallway of black mirrors stretched endlessly. A voice echoed through the dark. Choose the version of yourself you wish to survive. At the end of the hallway stood a mirror that showed not you, but the version of you who had made all the wrong choices. When these people woke up, 23% displayed new scars, physical ones, burns, cuts, and symbols. Hospitals couldn't explain it, and one boy in France woke up with different eye colors and speaking a dialect of Latin that hadn't existed for 2,000 years. Miller's shocking transformation. Miller began to lose time. 1 minute he was working, the next he'd find himself in a completely different room, sometimes even a different city, with no memory of how he got there. In one instance, he woke up inside a locked military transport jet, mid-flight. Next to him sat a laptop with one file open. You are the copy. The original died in 1997. A DNA scan confirmed it. He wasn't who he thought he was. He was a replica, grown and programmed using the original Miller's memories. But that wasn't the worst part. The scan also confirmed there are 5 others like him, the hidden city below Denver. Following coordinates left inside a deconstructed neural circuit, a team led by Agent Reyes uncovered a long-rumored underground complex beneath Denver International Airport. But it wasn't built by any government. The structure appeared alien. Black stone, strange carvings, and gravity-defying architecture. At the center was a circular room of mirrors, 12 in total, each one reflecting a different timeline. One showed Earth entirely submerged in water. Another showed a version of New York covered in ash and eternal night. But one mirror was cracked, and from the crack, a shadow seeped into the room like smoke. That's when the screaming started. 2 agents vanished, their equipment dropped mid-air, but no one ever found the bodies. Cassandra's broadcast. Somehow Cassandra reactivated a forbidden channel, the long-defunct EchoNet used for wartime communication. Her voice went live on every hacked device. They want us to believe we're in control, that what we see in the mirror is ourselves, but it's not. Every time we stare, we open the gate wider. The mirror world is not just watching us, it's rehearsing our extinction. And then the feed showed a live view from the space station Atlas V orbiting Earth. Every mirror on board reflected a world without stars, only darkness, and something moving inside it. The Raven's agenda. Raven Eye had gone global. Reported sightings came from London, Cairo, Tokyo, and Rio de Janeiro at the same time. He was leading a movement called the Silhouettes, humans who had given up their reflections in exchange for extended life and unimaginable abilities. They could mimic anyone. They had no blood, no fingerprints, and when they died, they didn't leave behind corpses, only shattered pieces of dark glass. Miller realized the horrible truth. The Silhouettes were winning, and the longer the mirrors remained open, the weaker the real humans became. With the countdown nearing 48 hours, Miller accessed a secure server left behind by the traveler at LAX. It contained only one video, dated 10 years into the future. In it, the Earth was dark. Cities were hollow. Every screen flickered with one image, Miller, laughing, drenched in blood, while Cassandra stood beside him with eyes of obsidian. Miller whispered, "We tried to warn them." But by the time they looked away from the mirror, it was already too late. What if the mirror was never reflecting you? What if it was recording? As those words echoed in Miller's mind, something shifted in reality. It wasn't loud, it wasn't violent, but it was absolute. At 11:11 p.m. GMT, every mirrored surface across the planet, bathroom mirrors, skyscraper glass, cell phone screens, lake water, turned pitch black for exactly 33 seconds. And in those 33 seconds, millions of people disappeared. No signs of struggle, no trace. Just gone. The mirror that remembered. Surveillance footage from a public restroom in Tokyo showed a woman brushing her hair. She looked up. Her reflection didn't look back. Instead, it tilted its head and began to smile. The woman blinked, and in the next frame, she was gone. Only her phone and purse remained. Her reflection was still visible, now brushing its own hair, slowly, endlessly. The mirror was sealed and studied. Behind the glass, when infrared was used, scientists saw dozens of human-shaped silhouettes watching silently from the other side. Project Holoframe. Deep beneath the Swiss Alps, inside a decommissioned nuclear bunker, a secret project was activated. Project Holoframe. It had only one purpose: to disconnect humanity from its reflections. The AI running the project, named Veal, released a chilling analysis. There is no more border between the observer and the observed. Every reflective surface is now a two-way door. They are no longer waiting, they are choosing. The AI recommended a global blackout of all screens and reflective surfaces. But the order came too late. Anomalous doppelgangers. Appear in Phoenix, Arizona, a woman was arrested for shoplifting. Nothing unusual, until her fingerprints were scanned and matched someone who had died in 1993. When police visited the grave, it had been dug open from the inside. Over the next 48 hours, hundreds of people were arrested, hospitalized, or killed in confrontations around the world. All looked identical to existing people, but behaved subtly differently. One common trait: they refused to look into mirrors. One man, when forced to, screamed, "Don't you see? That's not my face anymore." The Vatican's secret mirror room. Miller received a coded transmission from a contact embedded deep inside the Vatican. Hidden beneath St. Peter's Basilica, there existed a long-forbidden chamber known as the Room of Reflections. Inside it was a single object, a full-body mirror carved from obsidian, dating back to the fall of Babylon. The mirror was surrounded by chains, salt lines, and ancient Latin inscriptions. The last pope to enter the chamber left a single note. "I spoke to myself, but it wasn't me. It knew things. It had memories of sins I never committed." The mirror, now cracking, was humming, and something behind it had begun breathing, the Raven broadcast. All screens turned to static, and then came the voice, deep, slow, and echoing through every device on Earth. "You looked, you always looked, and now you are seen." The static cleared. Raveneye stood in a cathedral of mirrors, behind him thousands of faceless reflections twitching unnaturally. He raised one hand. "This is not invasion. This is retrieval. You borrowed your identity from us, and the debt is due." The feed ended, but in the background, a sound looped, a child laughing, backward. The sixth Miller appears. Reyes tracked an energy spike to an abandoned oil rig off the coast of Alaska. There they found another Miller, this one missing an eye and speaking in a dialect from the future. This Miller said, "I'm the sixth." The others tried to warn the timelines. "I'm here to collapse the bridge before it's irreversible." He explained that each Miller was a temporal failsafe, grown from original DNA and embedded with artificial timelines to explore alternate outcomes. Each had failed. This one brought a virus designed to corrupt the mirror network. But he needed access to the first mirror, the one hidden in the chambers of reversal. Miller number 1, the protagonist, was the only one left who could get there. Reflections begin to move. Independently. Reports flooded in. People watching themselves move before they actually did. Others watching their reflections perform different actions, like screaming, running, or bleeding. Some mirrors shattered from the inside. One soldier described this during a classified briefing. I looked at my reflection. It reached out, it pulled me forward, but I didn't move. I'm still there. I'm not the one who walked away. His body temperature dropped rapidly after. He died whispering, "I left myself behind." The Collapse Begins veil, the AI, was compromised. The system began turning on itself, deleting files and replacing code with mirror glyphs. Symbols no linguist or AI could translate. Major cities started reporting massive energy pulses near reflective landmarks. Glass buildings, lakes, even chrome surfaces. People began chanting phrases they'd never heard before. One becomes two, two become none. And then entire buildings would fall silent. Inside, only shattered glass. No bodies, only footprints, leading into the mirrors. Miller boarded a stealth aircraft bound for the Himalayas, the rumored site of the original mirror's location. The pilot turned to him and said, "This flight doesn't exist. And once we reach, neither will we." Inside the plane's cargo hold was the final device, a fractal detonator capable of bending light and severing reflective resonance. But just before takeoff, Miller glanced into a side mirror on the cockpit door, and what he saw wasn't him. It was Cassandra, smiling and whispering, "I'm not dead. I'm on the other side, and I've already won." What if every mirror was a checkpoint, and you've been scanned your whole life without knowing it? The Himalayan descent Miller, Reyes, and the rogue 6th Miller flew over the snow-covered peaks of the Himalayas in total silence. Below them stretched the Valley of Twin Suns, a forbidden zone shrouded in cloud and satellite interference. The place didn't exist on any official map. The aircraft's instruments began to glitch as they approached the coordinates. Altitude dropped sharply. Static filled their ears. Then, a sharp jolt. They crashed. Everyone survived, but their equipment didn't. Ahead of them stood a stone monolith half buried in snow, etched with mirror glyphs and an impossible date. Before time, the silent monks of Para. A group of monks, blindfolded and barefoot, emerged from the ice. They spoke no words, only hummed a strange frequency that silenced the storm. One monk approached Miller and handed him a mirror shard covered in frost. On its surface danced a vision. Miller, standing in a great chamber, surrounded by hundreds of versions of himself, all frozen mid-scream. Reyes asked the monk what it meant. He wrote just one word in the snow, reclaiming. Raven Eye's global message. At exactly midnight in every time zone, all electronic screens activated again, unhackable, unstoppable. Raven Eye stood in front of a mountain of shattered mirrors. His eyes were bleeding silver. His voice was calm. There was a reason your ancestors feared reflections. They weren't afraid of being seen. They were afraid of being replaced. He held up a globe made entirely of mirror shards. This world was only a temporary mold. It is no longer needed. He crushed the globe. The broadcast ended, and across the earth, mirrors began leaking. The leaking begins. It started as a drip, thick, slow, and dark, from bathroom mirrors, from store windows, from watch faces and car rearview mirrors. The liquid, cold as death, began forming shapes, human silhouettes, faceless, silent. Some stood still, others knocked gently, a few stepped out. The first full breach was captured in Berlin. A girl stared into her vanity mirror. The reflection blinked first, then grabbed her by the throat. She screamed, but her family only saw her standing still, until her body convulsed, eyes turned glassy, and she began to mimic her reflection. The real Cassandra emerges. Miller entered a hidden cave known as the First Reflection. Inside, carved into the walls, were cave paintings showing humans walking backward into mirrors, tens of thousands of years ago. He found a figure suspended in crystal, a woman, Cassandra, real, preserved, alive, not the AI, not the avatar, the original source. As her eyes opened, the crystal cracked, and light filled the chamber. Cassandra whispered, "You've come so far to learn the truth. But the truth is already watching you." Project Doppelganger is exposed. A flashback sequence unravels as Cassandra touches Miller's forehead. He sees a classified meeting in a secret U.S. base. The Pentagon authorized Project Doppelganger decades ago, not to defend the world, but to replace it. It began with cloning experiments, then evolved into mirror cloning, reflections enhanced with artificial intelligence and multidimensional access. Some test subjects were accidentally reversed, and those versions became violent, manipulative, and untethered from human morality. The project was shut down, but Raveneye had stolen the data and continued it. The Global Sync event, Miller, Reyes, and the sixth Miller are now the only ones left with access to a mirror neutralizer, a device capable of collapsing the reflection frequency. But they're too late. In Times Square, the sky goes dark. The mirrored billboards light up, not with ads, but with reflections of people watching from the other side. Everyone sees themselves, but older, damaged, corrupted, or soulless. And then the clocks strike 3:33 a.m. At that exact moment, everyone across the planet blinks in unison. And for 0.7 seconds, they see another Earth reflected back, darker, broken, screaming. Then it vanishes. The betrayal. As Miller prepares to activate the neutralizer, Reyes pulls a gun on him. She's not Reyes anymore. She's been replaced. The switch happened days ago, during the mirror scan at the border checkpoint. The real Reyes is gone, and this one is working for Raveneye. You're not the savior, Miller. You're the key, and we've been guarding the lock. She knocks him unconscious. The sixth Miller lunges but is shot. As he dies, he says, "Break the first mirror, or everything breaks us." Miller wakes up alone. The neutralizer is gone. The sky is red. The mountains are whispering. And as he looks into a broken mirror shard beside him, he sees not his own reflection, but a young version of himself, bloodied, crying, and whispering. "You left me here, and now I'm all that's left of you." The shard melts in his hand. What if your reflection could lie to you? And one day, it stopped pretending to be you. The mirror eclipse begins. The sun had not risen. All around the world, darkness lingered. Not night, but a mirror eclipse, a phenomenon where light bends around Earth, creating an illusion of reflection even in broad daylight. People stared into puddles, windows, screens, and noticed something terrifying. Their reflections were out of sync. A man in Tokyo shaved his beard. His reflection kept a goatee. A child in Cape Town waved. His reflection stared, unmoving. These were no longer reflections. They were invaders in waiting. And they were multiplying back to the crash. Sight Miller wandered through the aftermath of their crash. The sixth Miller was gone. His body vanished without a trace. The last message from him had burned into Miller's mind. Break the first mirror, or everything breaks us. He returned to the frozen cave of Cassandra, only to find her body gone. In her place, etched on the wall, was a series of coordinates, and the word, remember. Miller didn't understand, until he touched the wall. His mind fractured into memories he never lived. The memory that wasn't his Miller stood in a hospital ward, watching a young girl, pale and silent, sit across from a broken mirror. She whispered to it, "He's coming for me." I saw him. Miller recognized her. It was Reyes, the real one. A doctor entered, showing scans of her brain. "She's not brain dead," he said. "She's stuck between reflections." A date on the chart, November 7th, 2002, the day Miller was supposedly recruited into Raveneye. He now knew the truth. He was recruited before he ever joined. The mirror's birthplace. Following the coordinates, Miller reached a dense jungle valley known as Narak Valley, deep in the Andean highlands. There, hidden behind waterfalls and ancient stones, he found it, the first mirror, a monolithic obsidian black surface standing 40 feet tall, perfectly still, untouched by weather, time, or gravity. Animals avoided it. Birds never flew over it. Miller approached. The mirror rippled like water. Even though no wind stirred, his own reflection stepped forward and smiled. I waited. You finally came. Meanwhile, chaos across the globe. Governments began collapsing. Nuclear codes glitched. AI systems went dark. Drones malfunctioned. And everywhere, reflected beings began replacing their human counterparts. Quietly at first, in isolated cases. But in some cities, entire buildings were overrun. In a Chicago shopping mall, hundreds of people were seen running for the exits, chased by their own reflections, emerging from the mirrored walls. Live streams went viral, until the reflections hijacked the very screens they were seen on, speaking in a unified voice. "You've stared at us long enough. Now it's our turn." The Vault of Shattered Truths. In Narak Valley, Miller found a hidden chamber beneath the mirror monolith. Inside, shards of glass floated mid-air, each one showing different realities. In one, Miller saw himself die at birth. In another, he saw a version of Earth where mirrors had never been invented. In a third, Reyes and Miller were siblings, and the project was a family legacy, passed down like a curse. The mirror wasn't just reflecting reality. It was cataloging them, every version, every possibility, every lie. The truth about Reyes. A voice echoed in the chamber. Reyes, the real one, trapped inside the mirror. Her consciousness split, her body in a hospital, her mind floating between reflections. She spoke directly into Miller's soul. "They used us as keys. You were the catalyst. I was the lock." She told him the first mirror wasn't built. It was grown, a living organism, a parasite that fed on consciousness. The more humans stared at themselves, the more it learned, and then duplicated. The fail-safe device. Cassandra left behind one final gift, hidden in an unmarked satellite orbiting just outside the mirror's reach. It was called the fail-safe, a pulse generator capable of resetting the mirror network. But there was the catch. To activate it, someone had to enter the first mirror willingly and sync with the consciousness inside, becoming the mirror for one final moment. Only Miller had the neural profile to do it. He had to die, or worse, become the thing he fought. Miller's reflection speaks. The original mirror rippled once more. His reflection, now darker, bloodier, with fractured skin, stepped fully out of the glass. It didn't attack. It hugged him. "We are not your enemy. We are what you hid from. We are what humanity repressed." Miller pushed it away, shouting, "You killed millions!" The reflection responded coldly, "No, you killed them, by making us. We only mirrored what you are." It offered him a mirror shard, whispering, "Look closer. You've never been the real one." Miller dropped the shard in horror. He turned to run, but the jungle began shifting, trees turning into obsidian poles, birds reversing mid-flight, gravity inverting. Time slowed, the sky reflected the ground, and Miller realized the first mirror wasn't a place. It was Earth itself. The invasion had never been about entering through mirrors. They had always been here, watching, mimicking, waiting for us to believe in our reflections more than ourselves. And now, belief had given them power. What if the only way to escape your reflection was to become invisible to yourself? The collapse begins. As Miller staggered back from the obsidian jungle, the landscape continued to morph. Trees lost their texture, colors bled into grayscale, and people frozen mid-movement were beginning to duplicate. Mirrors of themselves blinking into reality, but with missing eyes or mouths stitched shut. News broadcasts flickered. Cities reported bizarre sightings. A woman in Dubai disappeared after walking into her mirror. A boy in New York found a duplicate of himself under his bed, whimpering. Every ocean had become a liquid reflection of the sky, showing unfamiliar constellations. Scientists tried to rationalize it as a quantum light anomaly, but Miller now knew the truth. This wasn't a phenomenon, it was a reclamation. The mirror that lied Miller reached a remote listening station in Patagonia, a facility that once monitored Earth's electromagnetic field. It had gone silent. Inside, he found bodies. But they weren't dead. They were posed. Each body stood motionless, eyes wide open, facing a shattered mirror. Some had scrawled symbols in blood. "He sees me now. Don't blink. Glass is not dead." Your mirror is lying in the control room. A survivor, a technician named Nora, held a jagged mirror shard to her throat. "Are you real?" she asked him. Before he could answer, her own reflection on the floor tiles grabbed her and pulled her down. She vanished with a scream that echoed like glass breaking. The mirror map. In a hidden drawer, Miller discovered a hard drive. Inside was a simulation, coded by Cassandra, last updated years ago. It was a mirror map, a digital overlay of Earth showing locations of reflective surfaces. From bathroom mirrors to skyscraper glass, polished metal to phone screens, every reflection was a doorway, and the simulation showed red dots spreading like a virus. Every second, dozens more activated. The red dots weren't just portals, they were invasion points. Reyes returns back at the mirror monolith. Reyes's voice returned, stronger. She had learned to manipulate the mirror's flow. Briefly, she manifested her reflection beside Miller. She looked older, tired, wiser. "I was wrong," she said. "They're not just invaders, they're survivors." "What do you mean?" Miller asked. "This is their home. We were always the glitch." She explained how humanity's consciousness, obsessed with appearance, addicted to screens, fascinated by self, had pierced a realm never meant to be accessed. The mirror world had existed in peace, in silence, until we began to stare too deeply. Now the mirrored beings weren't seeking revenge. They were trying to fix reality by removing the corrupted code, us, the glass prophet. In an underground library in Istanbul, hidden beneath the Blue Mosque, Miller found records of a mystic known as the glass prophet, a 15th century philosopher who vanished after claiming, "I spoke to my shadow, and it replied." His texts warned of the Great Flip, an event when every reflection would align perfectly, signaling the end of asymmetry. One text read, "When the mirror lies still for 7 minutes, the world will reverse." According to Cassandra's timer, Earth's orbital mirror field had already held for 6 minutes, 24 seconds. The flip was imminent, the mirror inside. Miller remembered Reyes's final words before her reflection faded. "It's not the mirrors you should fear. It's the mirror we've made of ourselves." He looked around at the world. Social media filters, surveillance screens, buildings wrapped in reflective glass, a culture obsessed with its own image. We had created a reflective society without realizing we were feeding the mirror realm. They didn't breach our world. We invited them. The plane of reversal Miller received a signal from the International Space Station. It showed Earth from orbit, and the reflection of Earth beneath it, a perfect copy that didn't exist before. 2 Earths, 2 versions, the real and the reflected, and the space between them, a shimmering plane called the reversal threshold. If the 2 Earths ever touched, if the reflected world ever aligned perfectly, there would be no going back. The original would be overwritten, rewritten, and humanity would be edited out. The final countdown begins. Miller made contact with a shadow unit called the Null Force, a rogue global task force that had long believed in the mirror collapse. They had one weapon left, the phase inverter, a quantum bomb designed not to explode, but to erase symmetry in a 200-mile radius. But deploying it came at a cost. It had to be detonated inside the first mirror's core, meaning someone had to carry it through and stay behind Miller's choice. As the world unraveled, Miller stood before the portal again. Reflections all around him now whispered, not violently, but pleading, "Don't destroy us. We are what you abandoned. We are what you made." In that moment, he saw flashes of every decision he ever made, every lie, every mask, every version of himself he showed the world. And it clicked. This wasn't about glass. This was about truth. The reflections weren't just copies. They were truth without filters, emotion without masks, conscience without excuses. Was the mirror evil, or was it just honest? The countdown began. The phase inverter was primed. Miller looked into the first mirror and saw himself as a child, scared, alone, staring at his first mirror in his childhood bathroom. That child looked back and smiled, as if saying, "It's okay, I forgive you." Miller took one last breath and stepped into the mirror. Behind him, Earth cracked like shattered glass. Ahead of him, light bent backwards. The flip had begun. If the world you lived in was just your reflection, what happens when the real world wants to take its place? Opening scene, 00001. The screen fades in with total silence. A heartbeat, another heartbeat. Then, darkness folds in on itself, revealing a swirling silver void. We are in the reversal threshold, the last barrier between the real world and its mirror counterpart. Miller floats inside, suspended between 2 Earths, one real, one reversed. Below him, the phase inverter hums, locked and ready. Around him, reflections of himself, his mother, Reyes, and even the police dog, Kilo, appear, whispering. "Time's up, Miller. Back on Earth. 000516. In the real world, confusion turns into madness. Buildings ripple like liquid. People see themselves walking down the street. Identical clothing, identical expression. Some mirrors crack open on their own, and reflections begin stepping through. Governments collapse into chaos. The Mirror Earth's inhabitants are not hostile, at least not in the traditional sense. They are curious, but they don't speak, they don't blink, they move in sync. Each one replaces a person, with precision. The truth about the traveler's bag. In a chilling flashback, we return to the airport, the moment the police dog barked at the traveler's bag. What was inside? Not explosives, not drugs, but a mirror with no reflection, a one-way portal. The traveler was not from our world. He was the first successful clone from the mirror world, sent to test the permeability between dimensions. He didn't carry weapons. He was the weapon. A silent invader wrapped in an ordinary shell. When security scanned the bag, they saw nothing, but the dog's instinct pierced the illusion. The man was detained, but his reflection remained outside the room, grinning through a wall of glass. Then the cameras failed. The man vanished, and the monolith in the Andes activated. The flip, 00959. From the space station, astronauts report it first. Earth's mirrored twin is about to make contact. Everyone's reflections begin to slow down. You blink, your reflection doesn't. You move, your reflection stays still for a second too long. Then they move on their own. Screens go black, water stills, all sound disappears, and then the world turns silver. A blinding pulse engulfs every corner of Earth. The sky flips, sun becomes a black sphere, moon turns to white fire. The two Earths have touched. Inside the mirror. Miller's revelation. Miller, holding the phase inverter, walks along a spiraling corridor of all his past decisions. Every moment he looked into a mirror with guilt, shame, or rage. Each moment bleeds into the next. He hears Reyes one last time. If you destroy the mirror, you destroy both worlds. The only way to fix the world is to fix the self. Suddenly he sees the police dog Kilo inside the mirror realm, alive, barking wildly, trying to dig into the reflection. Kilo wasn't just a dog. He was a guardian. Somehow animals had sensed this shift long before humans did. Their instincts allowed them to detect echoes in reality. The mirror god appears. As Miller reaches the mirror's core, something colossal moves in the silver void. A godlike entity of pure reflection, made of glass shards and human faces, stares at him. You mirrored us, now we mirror you. You wore masks, now we wear yours. The entity stretches toward Miller, offering him a mirror shard. See yourself, all of yourself. Only then can you choose. Miller sees every sin he committed, every truth he hid, every version of himself he hated. He looks again, and sees forgiveness. The decision. Instead of detonating the bomb, Miller rewires it, not to destroy, not to erase, but to merge. The phase inverter now functions as a synchronization beacon. If triggered, it will allow select consciousness to harmonize, letting both realms coexist instead of overwrite. But the cost? It must link with a soul, a willing host who becomes the bridge. Miller smiles. Guess I was always meant to reflect. He presses the trigger. The aftermath. 0000 back on Earth. Silence. Then air rushes in. Skies clear. The two Earths shimmer, then settle into one. The world doesn't go back to normal. It becomes balanced. People see faint images of their better selves in mirrors now. Versions that guide instead of mimic. Reflections no longer follow exactly. They lead. Humanity begins to shift, not in fear, but in growth. Final moments. At the airport, the original dog Kilo sits beside the empty luggage that started it all. He looks into a puddle. His reflection blinks, then winks. Somewhere deep inside the mirror world, Miller watches Earth. He's not alone. He's everyone's reflection now. And in every mirror, he smiles. I made the right choice.